excellent connection. That's funny. My phone has better connection than the house internet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Weird.
All right, I'm gonna play some intro music, and
All right.
then we'll get started. And then I guess I'll shill it on Twitter.
Do it. Why can't I find your YouTube channel? I have subscribed. Do I need to comb through? Okay, I'll just comb through.
We can just talk over the music anyways. It's just a MF Doom beat, if you know MF Doom.
Oh, nice, nice, yes, yes. I'm gonna do appreciate it for
Alright, let me quickly shill this.
sure. Yep. Beautiful. Hit the boys
It's
in
too
here.
bad you can't hear the music. If there was some way to do
I
that.
got this. I got this stream pulled up. I got the
Oh,
stream
okay,
pulled up.
okay.
Yep. All right, I added you to the featured channels on my
Oh,
YouTube
awesome.
channel.
Awesome.
You're next to David, Jeb, and Flooded Basement. Or
It's a good trio.
yeah, the Dangerous Gamer Trio of Orthodoxy.
Alright.
You need to do something with Jeb. That would be a good crossover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe like anime movie or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be more fitting. Yeah.
Alright, Flooded Cinema. Live from Down Under.
A visitor to a museum. That's such a good combo, dude.
What'd you say?
That's such a good combo. Like
Oh,
these two films next to each other is
I know,
so
I
funny.
know. I mean, that's the point of the show is like trying to have
Yeah,
these really weird double features.
yeah.
Uh, alright, alright. 1 second. And then the other song I've got is, oh, I guess you can hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me grab my notes. Alright, I think
Oh
we're
yeah.
ready to go.
All right.
Now let me switch over to. There we go. There we go. All
Have
right.
we tapped into the matrix here?
Yes. All right. I think we're live. We're live. Let me check. Everything looking good. Yep. 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 Okay. Hello. Welcome to episode 5 of Flooded Cinema. And we are live today, and that's mostly because I'm too lazy to edit these things anymore. So I'm just gonna do them live. I think when I can. And I'm joined today by a very special guest, Joseph or Landbeorht,
Yeah.
who has a
Yes.
YouTube channel with one video on it. Say hello.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You may know me as a prestigious member of the America First, or Orthodoxy First alumni. The last Orthodoxy First guest
I was gonna
on
say
the
that
show.
this was a big pull for me,
Yeah,
getting someone from
yes,
the show.
yes. It's either a big pull for you, or it's just the end of my career. We'll see.
Yeah,
Time will tell.
yeah. This is.
Time will tell, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a great honor to be on the show. I'm very excited to discuss what we have in store here. And this is going to be a very wild night. So buckle up,
Oh
ladies
yeah.
and gentlemen. We're
Oh
going
yeah.
to go down holes and crevices you did not even know imagined. Okay?
Yes. Yes. So tonight we are discussing two films. One is a Russian film from 1989, directed by I am so unprofessional. I forgot to write down his name. It's some Russian name.
Constantine. Constantine. Something.
yeah, Konstantin Lupashansky.
There you go.
Lupashansky. All right, and it's basically, it's your typical sort of Russian arty film, I would say, in a certain superficial sense. But it was a really amazing movie called, yeah, Visitor to a Museum, and the other movie is Night at the Museum, the Ben Stiller family comedy. So good double feature, I think. Um, did you watch them back to back, or I'm assuming you did it over different nights?
I actually did do it back to back to
Oh,
get the
really?
immediate contrast that we are going for tonight.
What order did you? What order did you do?
I did it in reverse order actually because I had to watch Night of the Museum with my wife on my lunch break, and
Ah,
during work I just watched a visitor to the museum instead of working. So
nice.
there we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No. So yeah, it was very jarring to jump
Yes,
between the two.
I actually watched
Um,
them both back to back yesterday,
mm,
and I did
mm.
Visitor first, and then immediately into Night at the Museum, and it was so, yeah, it's really jarring for the first 10, 15 minutes or so.
Exactly. You're in totally different gears there. You go from a very depressing and kind of hopeful nihilistic Soviet film
Mm,
to one of the most, kind of stereotypical uh mid 2000s
yes, family comedy.
uh family comedy, just endemic of capitalistic America, family
Yes,
cinema.
yes. Well, I
So,
think let's get into Visitor to a Museum
yes.
first off. So what were your, I guess, your overall general impressions? Did you like the film? Did you hate it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I just right off the bat, I think what this film does really well is, this was filmed in 1989, and you just gotta appreciate the absolute lack of CGI.
Mm.
They just went all out on the sets
Oh,
and just the overall, just all the different shots and the landscapes
yeah,
and the effects, and you're just like, how did they do this? Like, they have
yeah. I was thinking
they
that
have
as
so
well.
many, yeah, so many moody and just otherworldly shots, and you're like, how did they just do this? Some obscure, you know low budget movie, and they
Mm.
have all these things. They have a train that has been totally
Oh,
gutted and
yeah,
broken apart, and it's going through this landfill, and you, there's these buildings that are completely, set for this movie, and you're just kind of blown away by it all. And so it's real, and I think this is kind of interesting because this kind of ties in even with the overall theme of the movie, is that there's this really grounded element to the
yeah,
the film. Like, you feel like you are in this world,
yes,
but at the same time, then it's really jarring because it's really gritty, and you've like incarnated into this world, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden it pulls the carpet underneath your feet, and you're in this wacky dream sequence. You're kind of
yes,
like, you
yes,
don't know where you are, what's going on. You're just as confused as you would be if you were the dreamer of these things.
yes,
So there's this back and forth of very grounded realism of this
yes,
post-apocalyptic world, and then this very ethereal, confusing dream world that you hop back and forth in.
yes. I think yeah, it's a the production of it is just crazy, and that's what I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
find when you watch some of these, arty films from the 70s and 80s. It's like, well, how did they managed to do this with, less, probably $1 million, maybe, if that, less half the
yeah.
time.
Right,
And now there's these
right.
$100 million like monsters, and they just look terrible. And like
Yeah,
this movie,
exactly.
I think we both had to watch it in low quality just because it's pretty obscure.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but I've actually
And it is a dark movie. It's
yes,
visually a dark movie, and it didn't help that the one cut that, or the one, I guess, version of it available for free on YouTube, it itself is like a little bit darker
yeah,
in quality. So it just made for a very dark experience, and it kind of obscured things needlessly at times. But
Yes.
if you had a remastered version of this, I think it would be a much more enjoyable
Yes,
experience.
I saw
I,
it years ago. Actually,
hmm,
they played it at a cinema here, and yeah, it is a really obviously yeah amazing yeah to be able to see it on full definition
right.
and
And
everything.
honestly, just going back to the overall feel of this film, I think this is a movie that you're going to have to go into um, with a sort of patience and a
Yeah,
sort of commitment to understand what's going on, because like you said, it is this bizarre artsy Russian film,
yeah,
and it's really you're not going in for a casual
no,
observation. You're going in. You're partaking in this very esoteric, trip,
mm,
um, exploring these two different worlds, a very materialistic worldview, and then this
yes,
this very spiritualistic, gnostic kind of thing.
mm,
And you're just along for you're along for the ride for these worlds to collide, and
yes,
you just kind of have to make sense of it. And this is a movie, honestly, I should have done a second watch of. I
yeah.
did
I was
have to
thinking that
flip
as
back and
well,
forth, Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's like it's 2 hours and 15 minutes or something. It feels longer, but not necessarily in a bad way. Is how I
yeah,
describe
yeah.
it.
There are just really slow pans at times, and but there are other times where you're kind of just immersed in the
Yeah,
situation, like at various set pieces, and
yeah,
you just listening to ambient noise and
yeah,
whatnot. So yeah, I
yeah,
get that.
yeah. Yeah, I guess we've just talked about the production, so let's get into the actual
Yeah,
content, shall we?
the meat and potatoes. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So I guess the basics of the plot is a man in this sort of post-apocalyptic world is going sort of on a tourist trip to this giant dump because he's heard that there's this museum there and that there's some sort of supernatural thing about it and he wants to sort of learn about it for himself. He's pulled there um, almost
It,
like
it's
Jonah or something.
yeah, it's the vestiges of their antediluvian world, right? And the
Mm,
the world is in a post-apocalyptic state. We in this movie you start right off the bat in Sam Hyde's vision of the world, trash economy.
yeah,
Like you
yeah.
you you have seen something. You're seeing the aftermath of something terrible. And the idea is that there's this museum, they call it, they refer to it,
Mm,
out in the middle of the ocean, and only certain times of the year, when the tide recedes, this
mm,
this home, this bastion of all the lost knowledge and lost cultures and life of the old world is on display for only seven
mm.
days. And we'll get
Yes,
back to that number of seven for symbolic significance. But
yes,
so the idea is that we have the tourist, and that's all you know him as, by
yes.
the tourist, and he's out on a quest, right, to experience this lost knowledge, the lost world, and right off the bat, this is something that's very exciting for any viewer, because we live in a story that has that premise,
Mm,
right? We live in a world where we know very little about the pre-flood world. We know very little about the antediluvian times, and
yes.
yet they're filled with such marvels and knowledge, lost demonic knowledge, and all these
Yeah.
all these other mysterious aspects. And so that mystery really engaged me early on in the story. I loved the premise of it when I first heard this. I'm
Yes.
like, this is so cool. Like this jives so much with my own desire for like what like a breakaway civilization, like the remnants of
Yes.
past
Yes.
breakaway civilizations. Like, what would that be like?
I think it's also, I mean, because it's clearly the setting is sort of this heightened version of the fall of the Soviet Union type
Hmm.
era, but I think it applies very well to, where we're at now, just in general, the setting of,
The urbanized world, basically.
yes, yes,
Yeah. it's vague, interchangeable, urbanized world where we all know, and it's kind of true in the sense that we live in these ruins, these spiritual ruins of this urbanized world, of
Mm,
a world that is so close to us in the past, but it's totally gone. Like if you think of the pre-industrial world, it
yeah.
may as well have been we may as well be living in a post-apocalyptic
Yes.
world of the pre-industrial world.
Yes.
And so I if you're awake to these things, you understand how valuable the past is. And that's kind of like our main character, the
Yeah.
tourist. Has he has a respect for the past. He has respect for transcendent things.
Mm,
And so he's on a sacred quest, really, to just peer back into what was there. And he
mm,
has this kind of enchanted worldview of the world. And
mm.
it's kind of refreshing, because like how do you stay enchanted about the world in a positive sense, enchanted
Yes.
of the
Yes.
world,
Yes.
when everything's so destroyed, and the people that are there are just mindless, atheistic, progressives that just think the world is, we're fine, we're just continuing to progress technologically, isn't
Yes.
this great, and
Yes.
so yeah, it really is recapturing that enchantment of the world.
Mm.
And everything in this film could easily apply to our current, like, struggle in in this postmodern world we live in.
Yes. And I
So
think one thing I wanted to point out. So the opening of the movie is him. It's all sort of red and black lighting, which they use throughout the movie whenever he's sort of having an existential crisis, I suppose you could say. Um, but the opening is him on a boat going over water and stuff, and that's the beginning of his journey. It's sort of like evoked, I guess, like the River Styx kind of thing, like maybe. But the thing I really wanted to mention was when he gets to this sort of giant pile of trash. The first thing he says is he looks to the camera. There's sort of a zoom in, and he looks to the camera. What do you want from me? If you remember that,
yeah,
and it's sort of him because he's sort of plagued by the feeling that there is something sort of super transcendent, as you said, going on around him, and he senses this presence, um, which I guess we could say is God. I mean, I'm not
yeah,
sure if,
right, right, right,
yeah,
right, right.
yeah. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you would fall on this being sort of like a Christian movie that's sort of hidden because he had to hide it because I think he is Christian, but he had to hide it,
Yeah,
because obviously,
it would have been difficult to. I think, yeah, there's two readings of it. And I'd like to be charitable with the man, Constantine, with a name like that. You got to be charitable, But yeah, I think it really is. It is it is very Christian in its nature. It's like what kind of world, or what kind of individual continues to have hope in
mm,
the setting we find the tourist in. The fact that
yes,
there's some shred of hope that is still going on with him, and that he has some sort of conscience. That is a very Christian thing. Like, no atheist would, they would just have cynicism left with them.
yeah,
And as we go on in the film, something we didn't establish, I guess, too, is that in this world we have two
yes,
types of people. We have the normal people, who are kind of like the ruling class at this point, anyone who survived unscathed from this event. And then we
mm,
have the degenerates, who are
yes,
kind of mutants, but like, or dwarves, or mentally
yeah,
impaired, or however it is. They You just look at them and you know that they're deficient in some way, and they're kind of
yes,
corrupted.
yes,
And so the tourist is not a degenerate.
yes,
And what's funny about that word is degenerate is,
yes,
these people aren't degenerates as we would
No,
use
we
that
would use
term,
a term now.
degenerate.
Yeah.
The irony, and this is, I
Yes.
think, pretty obvious. Everything about this movie is very obvious. There's not a lot of subtlety to it.
Well, I mean,
It's
it
really in your
depends.
face. Oh yeah, true, true. There, but like,
If you're a Christian and you've read, you know about
true,
Seraphim Rose and things like that, then yeah, it will be obvious. But I guess to
right,
like
right.
the
Yeah,
Soviet censors, they would watch this and I don't know what they would make of it.
yeah, true, true. That's a good call out. Here's the thing though. It's the it's it's the degenerates that are
Yes.
not the degenerates, and it's the normal people that are the degenerates, that are cross-dressing and
Yes.
are engaging
Yes.
in gluttonous and you know fornication and all these classically titled degenerate behaviors.
Yes.
Um, so and they're also the overly rational,
Yes.
atheistic, great march of technology types, and it's kind of like this is the continuation of the Soviet revolutionary mindset.
Yeah.
And it's like these people have lost everything in the world, and yet they still hold on to their enlightenment and Bolshevik ideals, through all this, that man through his rationality can just conquer the world and produce goods to satisfy his needs and all these things.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, something interesting about these degenerates then is that they basically become the slave class. They've been rounded up and put
Mm.
into what's called reservations. And the thing that makes them interesting is that they've also developed their own religion, right? Countering
Yes.
the atheism of the normal ruling class. They've
Yes.
created this kind of this like pseudo Christian Gnostic sect that
Yes.
is all about the deliverance from this life,
Yes.
um, and the prophecy of a coming savior to deliver them. And what I found very interesting, I call them Gnostic because they have one prayer,
Yes.
and the one prayer, it's like a satanic inversion of the Jesus prayer. It's like, get me out of here,
Let
right?
me out of here.
It's like, yeah, let me out of here, let me out of this body, let me out of this earth, like,
Yeah.
interpret it how you will, but it's like this thing that they just repeat over and over, and
Mm.
that's their only prayer. That's the one prayer they have.
Yeah.
And that's just really telling that these here's the thing, it's not like, oh, the degenerates are the good, like, Christian guys, and
Yeah.
the normal, rationalistic
Yeah.
guys are the bad guys. It's like, here we have the two extremes
Yeah.
of, overly atheistic,
Yeah. Pure world
cynical
and yeah.
rationalism, yeah, pure spirit.
Yeah.
And these, I appreciate that was displayed in that manner, because this idea of becoming too worldly or too spiritual is a very Christian,
Yeah.
talking point throughout all the scriptures and the holy tradition of the Orthodox Church. We talk about the two hands of God, of justice and mercy,
Mm.
always balancing itself out and walking on the royal path. And so
Yeah.
we keep one foot in both worlds. We try to do our best in this world, whatever we need to do for our community and our family, and then at the same time we are always looking for the true world beyond
Yes.
this,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the kingdom. And so we walk balancedly, but
Yeah.
there's no balance in this world that we find ourselves
Yes. Yes. Yes.
in a visitor to the museum. Everything's been thrown out of balance. It's absolute chaos because there is no balance in these things.
Yes. Yes.
And
Um.
that's where the tourist comes along, right?
Yes. So, because he's normal, but he still believes in the transcendent, I suppose. So he's
Mhm. Right.
he is yeah he's that middle ground, the reconciliation between those two extremes. So he feels he doesn't feel completely at home in either camp.
Right.
Um.
Right. And
And
it's kind of something that plays then into the prophecy of the degenerates, that they have this prophecy
yes.
of, it's kind of like they have this prophecy of an antichrist figure, who is a worldly figure that comes and delivers them from all their problems through his
Yeah.
intercessory prayer.
Yeah.
Which is just interesting because that's how they characterize it as, is not that he will be great in wisdom or
Yeah.
speech or might or anything like this. That he simply has a prayerful life,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
what's and I that is very orthodox, to say that that's
Mm.
what a hero is at the end of the day. But in their sense, it was that was just a mere tool to serve their end of being free of suffering.
Yes.
They're just so focused on the elimination of this flesh so that they don't suffer. And it's
Yes.
just they're still in this nihilistic, overly spiritual mindset, right? So
Yes. Yes.
it's all eyes are on the tourist to
Yes.
figure this out.
Yes. And it's yeah, I really like the structure of how it goes through the events. Like it might seem, I guess it, like, I don't know, maybe to some people it is definitely slow, but I like the structure. Like it's him meeting all the normal people, and then you meet the two degenerates, and that's one point I wanted to bring up was the people he stays with. They said at the beginning, oh, these are just two degenerates that we've trained or whatever, and then it's sort of later revealed, or when he hears them arguing that these two degenerates are actually their children. Um,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I really like the structure. It explores the normal people, and then you get this idea of, oh, maybe the degenerates know what, like, I've more of an idea of what's going on, and then when you go and see their church, it sort of leaves you a bit like, well, what is actually going on here?
Right. Right.
Just from a narrative
And
structure perspective.
and and the utopian visions of the atheists,
Yeah.
normal people, is contrast by this hellish view of the world. There's that
Yeah.
famous quote, that we hear from one of the degenerates, is that everywhere man is, there is hell, or
Yes.
something like
Yes.
that. and
Yes.
and while that
Hello. 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 Where did Joe go? Hello.
Oh boy. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're back.
And we must have come out. Sorry. The degenerates heard me trashing them, and they got me. So no,
Yeah.
I was just saying that the utopian vision of the atheist is contrasted by the hellish,
Yes.
degenerate view. and
Yes.
and this is where it's kind of, we kind of see this even with the true degenerates of our time, that it's just pure negativity of the world.
Yeah.
Everything's so bad, and these guys say, um, everywhere man is, there is hell.
Yes.
And that is meaningful on some level, and it's a nice fun quote. But at the end of the day, right, where man in his proper nature and proper being is a bringer of paradise, and is taking Eden out with him to the
Yes.
corners of the world. So, like we said, these two worldviews are unbalanced on their sides. That's important to keep in mind. It's not, oh, the degenerates are these poor oppressed people, and the masters are just these evil people. It's like they both have reasonable, virtues. It's just you need to be able to navigate the two, I
Yeah.
guess. Bring
Yeah.
bring heaven and earth together there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you see um, with their religious ceremonies, it's just repeating of, like we said, that prayer, that
Yeah.
Gnostic prayer of, "Let us out of here," as well as just reciting various of scriptures of theirs about the prophecy of the coming Messiah.
Yes.
Uh, and these degenerates also wail and moan,
Yes.
and cry, so it's a very frightful sight. The
Yes.
Degenerates.
Yes.
There's at times where this film crosses over into like kind of like a psychological horror kind of show.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. Definitely. With yeah, when he's at the church, definitely their
yeah,
temple or
and
whatever.
and you do see this right, like Flooded said earlier with whenever the red comes on, you know,
Yes.
the red lighting and the degenerate religion. There's a tight symbolism there of
Mm.
of whenever the tourist has these episodes, there's just this confusion and haze and spiritual fight going on
Yeah.
within him. And it is all very confusing when you're watching it initially.
Yeah.
You up until this point, you thought, okay, there's a really straightforward quest here. We have this
Yeah.
tourist. He's visiting these different hotels on his way to the museum, and
Yes.
like for the first third of the movie, you think this is going to be a really straightforward adventure movie that sounds really cool, and it
Yeah.
just kind of it goes right off of the projected, story.
So,
When the
so what was it like when you were watching it? So you were expecting it to be more straightforward, or
Well, yeah, yeah.
I guess yeah,
I expected. Okay, so we've been given this premise of this lost museum with all this lost history and knowledge, and there's this perilous
mm,
or this perilous journey out into the ocean, which is all very symbolic, right? Like
yeah,
you're going out into chaos, and you have only 7 days to make it back. You go out there. It takes a 3-day walk to get there. 3-day walk back.
yeah,
Many people die doing this pilgrimage. So when I first saw it, I'm like, okay, so this is going to be a pilgrimage story.
mm,
Um, and and because it progresses like that, you go from you start with him walking in a trash heap. He gets to a hotel, he stays there, he moves on to the next hotel, and you think, okay, we're just going to continue to progress like this.
yeah,
And it's not that way at all.
no,
It
no, you,
things really get lost with his psyche,
mm,
with the degenerates and whatnot. But
yeah,
yeah.
you get you sort of get the pilgrimage thing a bit later on, but it's just
Yes,
even
yes, yeah.
it's just the like it's weirder than you would imagine, I guess. But that
Yeah, it gets progressively crazier as the
yeah,
movie goes on. Yeah, you could say, yeah.
yeah. So I think there's one thing I wanted to mention as well was the character he meets at that first hotel, the old man who gets him to read his
Hmm.
fortune,
Yes, yes,
which I thought was
yes.
interesting because he seemed to be the only other character that sort of had a at least a passing interest in I guess spiritual things to a
Yeah,
certain extent.
right,
That was a
right.
normal guy, but of
Yep.
course his view of
He
it was
was mad.
superstitious. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and he's portrayed as, oh, that's our crazy old dad that lives
yeah,
upstairs. Like, what are you doing down here? And
yeah,
he's not a degenerate. He's just kind of like an old man.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
and yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, I guess if I was gonna watch this, I'd want to watch this again and then work out exactly what the verses were that he was reading, and then sort of try and
Yeah.
get the better
So it
context.
so it was the two verses that he initially read to the old man was one was from the New Testament and one was from the Old.
Yes.
And the first he read was concerning about the persuading like pagans or Jews about the resurrection of Christ and how that
Yeah.
seems preposterous. And then they they don't know what the term resurrection really means.
Yes.
Which is telling, that this is outside of the Christian scope, like that the resurrection is the central point of Christianity.
Yeah.
And so that missing element says a lot about the environment they're in.
Mm.
And you're not told that this is a Bible that they're reading or
Mm.
whatnot, but then they're like, okay, let's do it over again because that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then they read out of oh, it's either Job or the Psalms. I'm blanking right now. What is man that you're mindful of him? Yeah, Psalms.
Yes.
Psalms.
Yeah. 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 That's right.
And or the Son of Man. And so yeah, it's that line kind of hits home when you see the desolate world that these people are inhabiting,
Yeah.
the idea that God is watching them at all, and um like it. But as it progresses, you're like, no, this environment is just the consequences of their sins at this point,
Yeah.
with their various ideals and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, there's one bit of levity, I guess, in the whole movie, which is just the fact that all the men wear high heels,
Yes, yes, yep,
which is a
yep.
weird, like a funny little thing to put in, I suppose.
Yes, yes, the high heels and fishnet um,
Yes.
tights, or yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I just thought that was a
So
funny detail.
yeah, yeah. I think I read that as a further contrasting of the degenerates and the
Oh yeah.
true degenerates.
Yes. Yes.
And even the or the inn owner is dismissive of that. He says, "Oh, the new fashion trends. Like
Yeah.
what are you
Yeah.
gonna do with them?"
Yeah.
So the world is not in a good place
No.
that
No.
all this is progressing. But
Uh.
regardless, I guess, right? He continues to kind of find himself in between these two worlds of the normal people and the
Yeah.
degenerates, and his identity is getting more and more fractured between the two,
Mm.
and eventually he kind of befriends one of the degenerate servants, who turns out to be
Mm.
the daughter of the innkeeper that he's
Yeah.
staying with, right? And she
Joe. Joe.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Every time I mention the degenerates, they're coming for me. Um, no, so this daughter of the innkeeper identifies the tourist with
Yeah.
this messiah figure of theirs, um, who is not a degenerate, but
Mm.
um, intercedes for them in a way that they couldn't. And so they're like, okay, this is a degenerate who is not a degenerate, and
Yes.
and there's kind of this weird idea that he's two natures at once. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm reading too much into that, but he's like, he's like a Christ figure in that he's
Yes. I was
two,
thinking
he's
that.
both
Yeah.
the degenerate and non-degenerate.
Mm.
And he's kind of dismissive of it at first, right?
Yeah. Well, I think because he sort of seems to realize that he is that figure, and so he wants to
Mhm.
reject it. He wants to reject it.
Oh, right. He wants to reject the calling.
Yeah, basically. And so he goes to the like the party with the normal people, and he fornicates, and he's like trying to, uh, yeah, he's trying to resist the urge to be what clearly he's being called to be.
Right, right.
And
A Jonah moment, like you said.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And then basically the degenerates come and they just kidnap him.
yeah. And they anoint him and baptize him,
Yeah,
basically, right? And as the savior.
yeah.
And this is at this point, like, I don't even know how we can describe the film because it gets so bizarre. Um,
Yes.
you really don't know what's going on. You're kind of just along for the ride unless you see it a second time.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
And then
Any,
yeah, he
anything
begins his
to,
journey.
anything to describe this? Because it's just I'm lost for words here.
Uh, I don't know. It's very striking for sure because the
Yeah,
rest of
yeah,
the film has been quite dark and
yeah,
moody, and this is sort of very, I guess, bright, you could say, but comparatively.
yeah.
And it's just
Right.
yeah, him walking to this museum or like heading to the museum, which is not really a museum, I guess. It's what is it?
Yes.
It's
Yeah. So when he finally arrives, right?
yeah.
He's praying the whole time he's making this journey too. Like
Oh
he's
yes.
walking, and he's screaming out to God, and he's quoting the Psalms,
Yes.
and eventually, right, he arrives at the museum, and it turns out that it's not a museum. It's like a abandoned ruins of somewhere in Mesopotamia or something, right? Like it's
Yeah.
this really old, like looking sandstone structures,
Do you think
And
it's?
oh,
I mean,
a
it's
detail.
supposed to be a church, right? I'm assuming, but he
Yeah,
maybe.
well, so yeah, a detail that we didn't mention early on is that in this legend of the museum, as the tourist knows it, is that
That's right.
outside of there's a mound outside of the city that is an indicator that he has reached the museum.
Yes.
And what I immediately thought of when he was describing this
Golgotha.
is how, yeah, yes, exactly, yes, that the crucifixion took place um, outside, below the
Uh,
temple, right, on a mound outside of the city, because it would have brought ritual uncleanliness,
yes.
um, to do this crucifixion, and so the crucifixion takes place outside of the city, um, and as he arrives to the museum, we see this big mound outside of the ruins, and he's having this perilous struggle up this hill,
Mm.
while he's praying, um, and I guess pleading with God, um, to take care of the righteous, and
Mm.
also saying, like, there is no righteous man on earth, we free
Yeah.
us from this suffering, and all this stuff, and he reaches the top of the mound, and it's a cross.
Yeah.
That's all, that's the only thing of note,
Yeah.
really, at the so-called museum. And like, I just got immediate parallels. Okay, this is like pointing to the crucifixion, obviously, because there's a cross
Oh
here.
yeah. Yeah.
And this is like the lost wisdom of the world,
Is the
of this
resurrection,
story.
which they've
Yes,
forgotten about, which you didn't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't know that this is the de-incarnated world, and this is something that I thought was interesting, right? The whole reason why history is such an important thing is because God entered into history,
Mm.
and continues to live through history, and so the 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 true treasure that we have right now is that we
Mm.
well experiencing more and more de-incarnated world, where the
Yes.
resurrection
Yes.
is being more and more forgotten, um, and this is what the world is in a more poetic manner, without the crucifixion, without Christ,
Yes.
without incarnation. And this is the hidden wisdom of the past ages, is that there's this redemptive suffering leading
Mm.
up to the cross, um, that has been replaced with this selfish, materialism, and it has just led the world to destruction, like physical
Yeah.
destruction,
Yeah.
because of a lack of the spiritual truths of Christianity. Um, but yeah, that's what I was thinking when I first saw it. Anything to add there?
No, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. Seems to be. I mean, it basically. I mean, I'm leaning much more towards a Christian reading of it rather than a Gnostic reading
Yeah,
of the film,
right,
just
right.
because of there's nothing that explicitly Gnostic, and normally people that are doing Gnostic stuff love to put in eyes or other weird
Oh,
symbols and
right, right.
stuff. So
Yeah,
I mean, because I mean the very ending that he sort of doesn't really get he doesn't really find what he's looking for,
yeah.
sort
Right,
of.
right, right.
Um,
He thinks he's going to find the key to, fix what is going on in the world,
yeah,
immediately, or something,
yeah,
right? And basically the answer that is given to him is, take up your cross and
yeah.
follow me, and live a life of crucifixion.
Mm,
And yeah, that's exactly why the ending is so great, is because it is just like you said, just the cross. There is no
mm,
Gnostic, thing.
yeah,
Like, I'm definitely with you there.
yeah. Um, and I think you can also interpret the ending not necessarily that, like, not in a nihilistic way that God abandoned him necessarily, but in the sense that it, the world has gotten to a point where even when you are like very literally confronted with uh, the crucifixion and the cross, he just doesn't really understand what it means anymore. Like, it's been so lost out of the world, like you said,
Yeah.
deincarnated. And so even when he does get to the truth, he's literally stood, bowing in front of it. He can't get anything out of it necessarily. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It was a really amazing movie. It's one you need to say, okay, you have to treat it like, I don't know, like you're reading a book or you're gonna watch a lecture or something like that. It's not really just
Yeah.
sit down and
It's
have
not
a
casual.
beer. No.
Yeah, yeah. You have to actively be paying attention and be patient. That I don't think it's kind of like a pompous, like, oh, it's too deep for you kind of thing. You just have to like embark.
No.
Like, okay, what's the message that's being trying to be conveyed here? We have such beautiful production value. There's a lot of intentionality behind
Amazing
all
acting
these
as well,
pieces.
we should say.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
you know it, you really feel sucked into it, the world, and like the degenerates are so good, and like all the it was just a really really amazing production.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
big recommend.
Yeah, yeah, check it out. Watch it alone, probably. I don't know. You kind of need to focus a lot on this.
Well,
When you watch
I
it.
mean, or watch it with someone that will be quiet, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right. Don't bring the missus over to watch this. That would be.
No.
I almost watched this with my wife, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I did. So I don't know.
How was watching this at work? That would have been so. Like, do you work from home? Or...
I work from home. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can imagine
my commute is the stairs. So.
I just thought it would the notion of you sat in an office watching this movie, people walking around.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Jerry, can you answer my email?
Line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But very, very good. I'm very eager to get to the main bout tonight. The prime time slot.
Yeah.
Of Night at the Museum.
Yes.
This is what everyone's been waiting for.
Night at the Museum.
You guys better tune out for this one. You don't want to miss this one. This is going to be the real esoteric. You thought that was esoteric.
Yes.
Just you wait here.
Yes. Okay. Night at the Museum.
Yes.
2006.
Yes.
I've got my notes. I think I stopped taking notes after about 20 minutes in, I'll be honest. It's just so overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. Yes, yep. There's a lot going on.
I saw this in cinemas when it came out back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, 2006, right?
Yes. And
around Thanksgiving, I think.
We have a special connection with this film, or at least you do, that you've mentioned. I don't know if you want to mention that.
Oh yes. So I befriended a lot of guys from New Jersey back in my Gmod days in the early 2010s. Everyone was getting into Gmod, Trouble in Terrorist Town, Prop Hunt, all the good stuff.
Nice.
And it turns out that I was getting all chummy with these New Jersey boys. Well, it just so happens that our I guess minor character of this movie, the Ben Stiller's son in the movie.
So it was the son. It wasn't like one of the other kids or anything.
No, yeah, it was the son.
Oh wow, that's so funny.
Yeah, he's from New Jersey. I know what school he went to. I know what park was near.
Wow. Yeah, so you should
dox him. I should. Well, I'll dox him. All right. No,
well, I guess you could just go on IMDb of the film and you'll.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, he ended up going off to some artsy fartsy school. He left high school early. But anyways, so yeah, here we have Ben Stiller. This is like when I think of Ben Stiller, I think okay.
I just want to quickly mention like.
Oh yeah.
It just blows my mind whenever you get these connections, because it really is true. Like, you can get from one person to another person so easily. Yeah. So it's right. I know you, you know this guy, that guy knows Ben Stiller. So that's, and that guy knows Jerry. That guy, he's the son of Jerry Stiller. So you know what? I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, and Ben Stiller probably or knew Epstein or something. So like,
Yeah, well,
there's
yeah,
probably some connection.
that's true. That's true. Anyway, moving on.
Anyways, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
let you
No, I get
describe
what you're
the
saying though. No,
give the
well,
outline of the plot.
here we have Ben Stiller. Like one of the most archetypal um, like mid 2000s family comedy guys, romantic comedy guys. Like when you think of just very generic, mediocre family movies, like I think of a guy like Ben Stiller. Like
Yep.
it's just this is like a very archetypal mid 2000s, cash grab family movie around Thanksgiving, Christmas time.
Mm.
We also have Robin Williams, Dick
Rest in
Van Dyke.
peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, Robin Williams.
Dick Van Dyke,
Um,
also rest in peace.
yeah, also rest in peace. Your next Ben Stiller. Um, honestly,
You don't like
as
Ben
soon
Stiller?
no, it's fine, it's fine. I just think my immediate reaction to the first like 5 minutes of this movie is I'm like, you know, like Jim Carrey would have been such a better cast
Yeah, yeah,
for this.
yeah.
I think just with all the physical humor,
Yeah,
and like you have a guy who's down on his luck. His wife left him for this Giga Chad, like Wall Street guy.
Paul Rudd.
He's a total.
Good cameo from Paul Rudd there.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
He was very funny. He's like he has such good comedic timing, Paul Rudd, in that just like one bit where he's got
Yes.
the phones.
Yeah. And,
Yeah, I don't think
All-
we can just say whatever we want about this movie. I guess we don't have to be analyzing it.
Yeah, true. Although I don't think you're ready for what I'm about to bring out here,
Oh
because
no.
as we were saying earlier, right, with museums, right, they're kind of a condensation of all human experience and culture, and it's basically the too long didn't read of humanity is what kind of a museum strives to be, right?
Yes.
And so there is things we need to consider when we look at this movie, as here we have a man who's being a steward of a museum. Like that's his whole thing, right? Is that he has no job, he's worthless, he needs to find a job, so he just gets his job as a security guard at a museum. Well, he is being a steward of a microcosm of humanity, right? Of all the flavors of the human experience. And like here we have these three vanguards bequeathing the responsibility of this to him. And I gotta appreciate how progressive this film was, is that we had two people of color for as the bodyguards. Two out of the three. We had an Irishman and a black gentleman. So I really appreciate that diversity there. But right off the bat, I was thinking this movie could be very deep if it wanted to be, in an unintended way. And this sounds so crazy, right? But the whole premise, right? Everyone's seen this movie probably, right? It's like Toy Story rules. The museum comes to life at night. Everything comes to life at night. And Ben Stiller's woefully unaware of this as he takes on the role.
Yeah.
And the first night, all he's told is
follow the instructions.
Stick to the rules. Yeah, follow the instructions. And it's like you're very early on, alluded to that there's this power that's emanating all these exhibits come to life, and they all have various desires that are contradictory to each other. Some want to kill each other, some want to just destroy things, some want to just chase things around for fun. And these are all like minor demonic principalities within the world. Okay, like if we go back to the Tower of Babel and the world being dispersed, and God bequeathing authority over the nations to various principalities that soon became dark principalities, and strove for their own desires and whatnot. That's kind of like what what it seems like is going on here, because you have Ben Stiller, who's worthless. He doesn't even have a gun. He just has a flashlight,
Yeah.
and he's powerless to all these, strong creatures around him, whether it's
Yeah.
a dinosaur or, the Huns or monkeys or whatever have you.
Yeah.
And it's like this is, well, how do you deal with demons? Well, you just follow the instructions given to you. You follow, the monastic wisdom and the holy scriptures, and it's like how we cope with demons in our own lives is by like reading the Bible and going to church and hearing
Yeah.
wisdom and stuff. He receives this wisdom from these elders of his, and it's like this is how you cope with these powers by the instructions.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder how those instructions came to be, right? Because like
Yeah.
one of the instructions is like lock up the lines, or else they'll eat you. Like, did someone get eaten before? Like what is the history behind these rules? Because there's a lot of rules, right? There's several pages that we don't get to see because they get taken away, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it's the antics ensue, as you would imagine with a wacky family movie. Like there's a bunch of like call outs to various films, and like, haha, I got that reference. He's like being like Tom Cruise here, that kind of stuff. And this is where I was saying, like,
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey would just shine with like,
even Adam Sandler would,
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't
like
mind
a cynical, yeah.
I think the problem with Ben Stiller is he doesn't ever look like a loser. He just looks like a well put together middle class
Exactly. Like he's interviewing at these jobs, and like this old white lady is trying to be like, "You are such a disaster," blah blah blah. And it's like, really? He's like a well trimmed, well dressed, like
clearly intelligent, like eloquent guy. Like started a business.
Good physiognomy. He started entrepreneur, and she's acting like he's like an idiot, and it's like, this is so not the real world. Like, trying to make the world a bit more believable, guys. Like have him be wearing like dirty clothes, have him have like overgrown facial hair or something. Like, come on, like try to make it a bit more believable for us.
I think just from a basic standpoint, the premise is really good. But there's just too many, just in terms of, because by doing this podcast, I've watched like a few different family movies.
You know their tricks all too well.
And just in general, watching lots of movies, there are some good family movies that hold up. Just as an adult, I wouldn't, they're not terrible to watch or anything. And I would say this is a bad movie, but it's just very mediocre, and the only good thing about it really is the premise and Robin Williams, I guess.
Yeah, right. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that they could have rode with this premise a lot better than they did. Right. And like, you have this going back to these dark principalities that are animating these various exhibits. What's cool is that you have Robin Williams, who is like Ben Stiller's guardian angel in this. He's like motivating him. He's guiding him. He's saying, you need to look inward for your answers to this, and like he's trying to be call him to a higher purpose, and like he it's just great. Like it's Robin Williams, and he's playing Teddy Roosevelt, America's last real president. Like there's just a lot of good symbolism going on there, just as as an American viewer like myself, when I was experiencing it.
I'm glad it was Teddy and not like Abraham Lincoln or something.
Yeah, right. And like there's just these good elements that could come together and weave it into something like meaningful, like, I don't know, like a Toy Story, but like a more realistic Toy Story, something like there's so much more potential there. And right as we're getting this wisdom from Teddy Roosevelt, the night ends. And it's like a really short night, right? And and not a lot of chaos got up to it. It's like it's like the museum knew they got the new guy, so they're trying to go easy on him. Which is a little weird, but then we hear Ben Stiller's trying to recover from the craziness of that night, and he hears the tour guide who he's kind of attracted
Oh, yeah.
to
Carla Gugino.
talk. Yeah, yes.
Shout outs to
And
Carla Gugino. She's
yes,
welcome on the
shout out.
show.
Yeah, anytime, honored guest. She can come into the flooded basement anytime.
Yes.
Um, she she says she says in reference to Robin Williams, Teddy Roosevelt, who's now frozen as his wax statue again, and she says Teddy Roosevelt was a firm believer that the more you know about the past, the better prepared you are for the future. And so this inspires Ben Stiller to start researching all about like the Huns and the animals and all, like he's trying to find out like how do you handle these various things. But what's weird about it is he's not looking at how do you properly handle these people, like how do you appease them. And this is where he gets in trouble, right? The second night. And
that's a good point.
It's very important to note that he does not sleep from the first to the second night. This is very important detail, and this is where the film could be weaving together a greater narrative. Hello, but it's fine. So jumping forward, I know I'm jumping forward a lot here with the movie. All right, but just bear with me. I'm weaving together.
We'll circle back. We'll circle back.
We'll circle back. Yeah. I just want to weave in on one final note with the appeasement thing. Like we see on the second night that he's bringing in toys to help the T-Rex play and destroy things, and he goes and he does magic tricks for the Huns, and he gives a lighter to the cavemen, and like this is all playing into that these are dark principalities like acting out in the world, and like you don't give someone who's gluttonous like more food, like that just inflames things, and it literally inflames the cavemen when they light their hair on fire and light other stuff on fire, and it's like totally not, it's not conquering these dark principalities, it's like giving into their temptations, and the reason why there's so much conflict going on, right, is that they all have these different ideals going on. There's no unity, there's no higher order to these exhibits or principalities, if you will. So we'll continue there later, but we'll jump back here because I was jumping ahead to. I'm very excited about this film.
I clearly you were thinking a lot about it.
Yeah. So sorry, as you were saying.
Where was it? Where were we up to? I don't even know. I just wanted to go through some of the actors as well. And Ricky Gervais.
Yeah. Yes, Ricky Gervais.
He's actually funny in this, I thought.
Yes, the enlightened British museum director.
Yeah, he's good at playing an obnoxious British person. So.
Yes.
What else? Oh, and the one other thing I wanted to mention is like one of his like quote unquote failed business ideas was like a virtual reality driving range, and he says,
yes,
the technology hasn't caught up to the idea," and it's like that's the thing that exists now.
Yeah, I know, right.
I was watching that, I'm like damn.
Yeah, like this guy, if he was in the Silicon Valley, like he would have been
he should have left NY.
Yeah, seriously. And then it's all the more asinine when you hear this old white lady like berating him, and the audience is supposed to like laugh along, and it's like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like the snapper. That's a good idea. Yeah. That's a cool idea. Anyways.
Yeah.
So, I get the joke, but yeah, I think not necessarily from a thematic point of view. I'm attacking this more from a movie narrative point of view, maybe rather than your thematic look.
Yeah.
I think
there's more.
It needed a better, because I like Ben Stiller. I like a lot of his movies. Like he's really good in, like Tropic Thunder or.
Oh yeah, right.
There's lots of movies he's great in, but I just think. Yeah, he didn't. He's good at playing weird characters, but he's not good at playing like a normal guy that has like crazy reactions or anything. So like you said, a Jim Carrey would have been perfect for this.
Yeah.
because like the most he ever does is he's just like widens his eyes when something crazy is happening.
Yeah, right, right. And or like when he's getting attacked and he has to swell up his lower lip, and like it's just like you're supposed to be numb and you're
Yeah.
just not doing it well. You don't do the physical
Yes.
humor thing that well
Yes.
done, you know.
And I think the other issue is like the writing. You know, some of the humor. I think they went for just. It wasn't even like they went for the easiest jokes. They just went for just like I don't even know what, just bland jokes all the time with different stuff.
Yeah, and it kind of was sporadic. It was like, oh, let's just throw a bunch of stuff and see what sticks, you know, like
Yeah.
humor wise, and like we'll blast some CGI in there every once in a while,
Yeah.
and just make uh, put damage things, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
It and
kind of low effort there, but
yeah, I thought what would have been really funny is like when he first gets chased by the Huns into the elevator. If when they got to the elevator, this is my pitch in the writing room.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That they just walk into the elevator and they all just stand in the elevator like nicely together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they waited out, and they resume the chase
yeah, I
after,
literally thought
there's
that was
elevator music
yeah.
playing, yeah.
I
Like
literally thought
this
that
stuff
was gonna
writes
happen.
itself.
Yeah,
This stuff writes itself, Yeah.
so I think it needed more of some like it didn't need to be edgier. It just needed some like a bit more clever, like like a Simpsons type.
Cleverness. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was just very reliant on like how he did this funny
yeah.
action, and
So
it went like his head got bonked or something,
yeah,
like he got hit in the head with a coconut, like kind of stuff.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah. So I think that was, and the other big thing that I think really held the movie back was there was like the villains. So spoiler alert:
The black man
the three
is the villain.
guards turned out to be thieves, and they're gonna oh well not thieves they got canned from their job, so they're annoyed.
Yeah,
So
they're very old. They're very old. They got canned, but at the same time they're telling Ben Stiller they got canned. They're at like a retirement party,
yeah, it
so
doesn't
it's
make
just not
sense.
it's not really adding up. And it's like, okay, you guys are really old. You've been working at this place for years. You have a retirement package that you're celebrating, and then
Yeah,
apparently they're not satisfied with their retirement package or
yeah.
something, so
So
they want to steal.
but it's like surely if they've been working there for decades, then they would be personal friends with like all of the things that come alive there, right?
Oh yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
then when they're stealing this like Egyptian tablet which brings everything to life, then they know that they're basically killing all these people effectively.
Right. And
It
okay,
doesn't
and
make any
that
sense. Like why? Like
yeah, and here's another thing, right? We're never we're never really given any motivation for why this satanic tablet that brings everything to life, like
yeah,
why do we want that to remain there? The whole premise at the beginning of the movie is that Ben Stiller is struggling as this
yes,
night guard to cope with the chaos that is going on at the museum. And why, if it, once we find out what is causing this magic to happen,
yeah,
just remove it and be done with it and not
yeah,
have to put up with this.
yeah.
And here's the thing: it's
Oh,
not
we've
even.
got orthodoxy first in chat.
Oh, very powerful, very cool.
Hello,
We
hello
love to
there.
see it. We're talking. Hey, buddy, we're going to be talking about some pretty
Esoteric stuff.
esoteric, demonic, demonology stuff here in just a second. So, what we have, right, is we have this tablet from
Mm,
Pharaoh,
yeah,
some random Pharaoh, and obviously when I first saw that Pharaoh, the come on, Pharaoh has always been a type for Satan
yeah,
or the devil, right?
yeah,
And so I'm like, okay, so we have the devil, and he is locked away in this tomb, like he's visibly like
mm,
trying to break free from these bonds that he's been put in. And there's this tablet that is purveying his curse upon this whole land, that is emanating these exhibits by these dark principalities that
yeah,
have their own desires. And wait a second, we're fine that we want to fight the guys that are taking away that tablet to
yeah.
stop the curse. Like that doesn't make any sense. and it's
Like,
not even like we're talking to the real Teddy Roosevelt here. It's not like Teddy Roosevelt is trapped in this museum and you're talking to the true Teddy Roosevelt and you want to like keep him around. This is what really threw off the whole narrative for me, is that Teddy
mm,
Roosevelt's Robin Williams is, in a very meta way, he's like, I'm not the real Teddy Roosevelt. I'm
yeah,
just
that's so
wax.
weird that he
Like
says that.
he says to Ben Stiller, look, this is all an illusion, and
Yeah.
it's like, this is what's weird, is like, I don't know, is Robin Williams' character the only one that's self-aware about that, because everyone else thinks like they're really a cowboy or really a
Yeah.
Hun or a
Yes.
legionnaire, and it's like, so what is going on here? Like, is Teddy Roosevelt the enlightened person? Is he still like this guardian angel figure? But regardless, the fact remains, like, there's undeniable links here between, there's demonic energy giving life to these people. Why do we want to continue this? And here's the thing: when the tablet gets stolen, they release the pharaoh, and he's
Yeah.
like, "This is my kingdom. I've been locked
Yes.
away from my kingdom." And I'm like, okay, so a lot of things were just
Yeah.
said there. Like, it's basically straight up admitting, like, okay, these are low-ranking demons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is getting a little this
Keep
is
going.
getting a
Keep
little
going.
out there.
Keep going.
These are all demons, right? That the devil has been released from the bonds of the grave that he was placed in during the resurrection of Christ, and
Yeah.
he's been set free now. And these he's going to ensure the safety of these principalities, that they do not get locked away like he was.
Yeah.
And so, like, Ben Stiller, it's like, it's so weird because, you have, like, the legions refer to Ben Stiller as their liege and all this stuff, and like,
Mm.
we're kind of sold this narrative that Ben Stiller is like being a good steward of a kingdom of his own, but in
Mm.
actuality, it's Pharaoh's kingdom. He's the one that's giving life to everything, and then we get the whammy from Robin Williams, that this is all illusion anyways. We're not who we say we are. We're
Yeah.
all just whacked, and it's like, okay, what is going on? Like, is 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 our hero supposed to be caring for these demons? Like, why? What benefit is there if they're alive or not? Honestly, there's more benefit if
Yeah.
they
Exactly.
are unanimated. And
Yeah.
something to keep note of is, Pharaoh's the only one that is actually who he is, because he's been mummified, right? Everyone
That's
else
such a good
is,
point. You're
yeah,
blowing my
everyone else
mind.
is, yeah, yeah. Dude, I was blown away more by Night at the Museum than a visitor at a museum. Okay, this is really crazy stuff. And so Pharaoh is, and keep in mind, right, that the 3 days of the muse there's
Oh
3 nights
yeah,
at the
and the third
museum.
one's when the.
And
Well,
yes, yes, and this is like, this is what it's all culminating to. There's been the resurrection, the dark resurrection. Ben Stiller hasn't slept this whole time, which is not like a plot hole. Like, it's very deliberate there.
yes. Yes.
Um, and it's like, this whole narrative's falling apart now, because it's like, so we either need to see an embracement of these dark powers, or like, Ben Stiller's just this generic good guy, and it's like, what is, like, it's like he's clueless that he's helping out these demon kings then. And like, he acts on behalf of Pharaoh this whole time. Like, Pharaoh doesn't even need to say anything to his subjects. Like, Ben Stiller
Mm.
acts as the prime minister of Satan in this movie. um so it's like, what is going on? So here's my two of, okay, and then spoiler alert. They go out, they get everyone to they get all, here's the big thing, right? The dark principalities band together
Mm.
to seek the common enemy that is trying to put them into bondage, that
Yes.
is, put them back to sleep, lock them away. So they set aside their
Ah.
various petty desires and conflicts, because of their different hierarchies, and they all unify their powers together to go out and to save their lost brothers, as well as to return the devil's tablet back to him, and that is Pharaoh. And so they all team up, they get the tablet back, and then they're happy and celebrating and all this stuff. And um, because of all the commotion, everyone wants to go see the museum because there's dinosaur foot tracks out in the snow and
Yes.
there's cave drawings everywhere, and it's like the media thinks it's a big publicity stunt and everything. And we'll get back to that in just a sec here. But
Yeah, keep
really,
going, keep going.
this is where it falls apart, because it's like, okay, so this is a really dark ending, because
Mm.
there's only a few people that are aware of what's going on. Teddy Roosevelt, Pharaoh, that's like it, honestly, that really know what's going on, because Ben Stiller is just this clueless family hero that is just happy that the sentient beings continue to be around, um, and that he was able to impress his feminist girlfriend, that she
Yeah.
was able to talk to Sacagawea and stuff. And it's like Sacagawea, the wax model, thinks she's actually Sacagawea, and Robin Williams is standing there and he's like well aware that this is all fantasy. Pharaoh's standing there, he's like, this
Yeah.
is all fantasy, and they're just happy that they have dominion over. Pharaoh's just happy he has dominion over these principalities again. What I thought should have been the thing, right? I have Disney wants to make a remake of Night at the Museum. I'm going to pitch them what they need to do now. Okay.
Okay, okay. Let's
So
hear it.
what they need to do to make this a very long-lasting film akin to Toy Story, right? People are going to be
Okay.
watching Toy Story for like 50, 60 years, right? It's a
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
This will make it a cult classic. This will make it a very esoteric classic. Um,
Who
Look,
who you
you
thinking
need
for
a.
the lead?
Well, Jim Carrey would be great. Get Jim Carrey if he's still alive. I don't know.
Nick
Um,
Cage, maybe? I'm not
Nick
trying to throw
Cage,
you off.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I look, we can do a lot better than Ben Stiller. I think we can establish that 100%.
Yes,
But
yes. Not suited to
we
the
need
role.
to.
I just want to make
Yeah,
that clear.
yeah.
I like Ben Stiller, but he was not suited to the role.
Yes. To be fair.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They needed to embrace the exhibits as one of two things. Either the exhibits were demons, and they full on accept that they're demons, and that this museum
Mm.
is cursed, and the people don't want to work there because it's cursed, and these demons come out and bully them like they did with St. Anthony. And um, there's this big problem because it's like a beloved landmark, and Ben Stiller, he's like, this is my one shot to help the community, to prove my worth, blah blah blah. So I'm going to undo the curse of this museum, and free it from demons, and put Pharaoh back into captivity, lock him away in his tomb, like actually put him into the mummy state and lock him away in the tomb and destroy the tablet or something.
Yeah.
Like that conquering of death and the devil, and undoing the curse. Or you have the exhibits being animated by like lost souls, like this is like a Sheol type
Okay.
environment,
Okay.
where it actually is Teddy Roosevelt, or it actually is Sacagawea, and that the museum is a type of Sheol, and Larry needs to free these souls that are trapped by trapping Pharaoh. Right? It all comes back to
Yes.
trapping Pharaoh, like how the devil was trapped
I
and
believe the
subdued.
second film, the villain is a pharaoh.
Mm, Not the same Pharaoh though.
No.
As the
No.
first one.
No.
Okay, well,
Anyway.
that's the problem. Yeah,
Yes.
there's one devil,
Yeah.
and he needed to stay trapped. He needed, and that just it blew me away that how much potential could have been there,
Mm.
and they just blew it. They just
Mm.
flat out blew it. It's like they took a fresh batch of organic farm raised avocados, perfect for guacamole, and they harvest them before, and they used them before they were ripe enough, and they were hard, and they sat out in the sun, and then they gave it away as guacamole, and all the kids ate it because they didn't know any better. That's basically what Night at the Museum is. Okay.
Yeah.
And just a quick note going back to the ending. Um, it was just this funny thing because um, they're Ben Stiller thinks he's going to get fired because the museum's
Yes.
a total mess. and you have Ricky Gervais like grilling him by showing him all the media coverage, and he cuts it off. He keeps cutting it off right before they say like how great of publicity this is and how people are so excited to
Yeah.
go to the museum and all this stuff. And then like he's getting ready to fire Ben Stiller, and then they go out and it's just everything's clean again, and there's people all over in the museum, and
Yeah.
so it's just a funny little ending there.
Yeah.
And then the kid likes his dad, thinks his
Yeah.
dad is cool. Um, but yeah, there's the very esoteric down
Mm.
Night at the Museum. It's basically needs to be the fight
Christianized.
with demons.
Yeah.
It needs to be Christianized. Look, it's perfect. Ben Stiller's character, he is the monastic hero. He is
He's
living
alone
out,
at night.
you know,
He's alone at night with
yeah,
his thoughts.
he's
Yeah.
alone at night and he doesn't sleep. All he does is
Mm.
contend with demons. Like he's being like a Saint Joseph the Hazardcast here.
Yes.
And we just need to bring
Doesn't
in the
carry a weapon
imitation
as
of
well.
Christ. Yes, exactly.
Mm.
And he's just trying to rely on the wisdom of his elders. So
Mm.
there's just a lot going on there that is being overlooked. Okay.
No, I completely. I think the Pharaoh and the 3 days thing. Yeah, that's I don't know. Yeah, you're onto something here. I think if I was gonna do it, this is my little mini pitch. I don't have my mini pitch is I would probably just do it as a horror movie, just because I like horror movies, and I think it's a lot easier to write for a horror movie, or maybe not even. I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably just do a horror movie. Nick Cage horror movie fighting.
I mean, yeah, a horror movie, or I think there could be dark comedy elements to
Yes,
it
yes,
as well.
yes.
Like the Hans in the elevator. Like there's a lot of potential there because you're bringing
A
all
horror
these
comedy
ancient
would be
people.
good. Yeah, yeah. If we actually
Yeah,
saw,
exactly.
because like in this movie, there's like it shows you how the Huns used to like rip people's limbs off. Apparently, I don't know.
Right.
And so if you actually
yeah.
saw that happen in the movie, that would be a good little reincorporation. But obviously it's
Yeah, like foreshadowing, like there's a character that happens to or something.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would. Yeah, just make it a horror movie would be good. Maybe set it just on literally one night, over one night, and he has to like survive one night.
Right. Yeah, because otherwise they'll die.
Yeah, and you'd do like, oh, it would be he's the guard, like it may be a relatively new guard, and the museum's just got a shipment in from Egypt or something of this new artifact that's been found.
Right. Yeah.
Something like that.
You go
yeah.
the demon route or something.
Yeah.
And really, you have a whole night of in movie time, right? That a night is a lot of time. Night of the Museum, they spend like 15 minutes on one night, and you're like, come on, there's so much that went on there between closing and opening of the museum. So
I think that's the
oh,
problem.
sorry, one other thing we neglected real quick is that hello, like these exhibit pieces die when they encounter the sun.
Yes.
Like the sun kills them, and it's like, okay, they're afraid. They're inherently afraid of the sun. In an ontological sense, just like the Son of Righteousness puts terror into the principality.
Is it a pun, possibly?
Yes. So,
what was I also gonna? Yeah, that's a good point. We forgot about that. Yeah, that's such a weird detail as well.
Yeah, like why does it?
Why not just have them freeze? Why not have them just freeze in place outside, or like if they step outside, they'll freeze?
Because it's not like it's the actual caveman. Because like you could imagine, like if it's the actual caveman, it's the Pharaoh's curse that's artificially maintaining them so that they don't decompose, and the sunlight breaks the curse, so they quickly decompose into dust. Like that's such a better explanation than they just die. It's like, okay, that was a wax piece. They could just order a new one. Like it's
This is
nothing
really
unique. I told you there was a lot to this movie.
Wow. Yeah. I watched this second last night, so I was pretty tired, so maybe I just didn't pick up on I clearly didn't.
I spent 2 hours taking notes on this thing.
Wow.
So it was a trip.
Who else? What else do I want to mention? Owen Wilson, classic.
Oh yeah. Owen brought a lot of life to it.
I wish they would
love to see it.
more like they should have done more famous people. Like that was one weird
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
that they didn't.
yeah,
They had
yeah.
Roosevelt, and then like Sacagawea. I guess she's famous in America, but
Yeah,
like
but like an
make her
international
make her a
audience,
cameo.
like
Like make they needed more cameos. I think
yeah, yeah.
like oh have
Especially with like the yeah, yeah. No, I get you 100%.
and get rid of the animals. That was just lame, in my
Oh
opinion.
my goodness, that throws it off even more because it's like, okay, is he supposed to be a steward of people and of a kingdom, or is he being a steward of animals like how
Well, they're
Adam
not
was?
little.
You
They're
know,
like they're taxidermied animals. So
yeah, and that's the thing, and why the animals are not. It's like the animals only go the carnivores don't go after the herbivores that are in the exhibit.
yeah.
Like they only go for the security guard. And it's like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Like,
Well,
yeah, the animals just didn't need to be in it. They wanted the animals because they wanted a
monkey.
monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
So
like you could have, yeah, they could have worked in a monkey in a better way.
yeah, like a pirate
Yeah, I was literally just
monkey.
thinking, yeah, have like
Yeah. Yeah.
Blackbeard, like
Yeah.
have some gets. It just needed more. Yeah, maybe that would have been too distracting, but yeah, they could have gotten rid of the. Pretty much all of their selections, other than like the Cowboys, the Romans, and Teddy Roosevelt, were the most boring selections they could have picked for
Yeah.
things out of a museum. I think is my other issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Pharaoh's
Yeah.
good too, in terms of like picking things that are good for like cinematic whatever, but it could also
Right.
be based on I guess what's popular or famous, because that's a real museum, I guess. Obviously, Natural History Museum of New York or whatever it is.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
they had to
But
pick.
it turned more into a wax museum than anything, right? With
Yeah.
all these characters. So like
And the thing is, what
that's
about
where
inanimate objects? Because the
yeah, yeah, right, right.
like would swords
It
come
doesn't make
alive?
sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it's just
It's only plastic and wax
Yeah.
and bones. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, it makes
Uh,
sense when you view it from your lens that it's demonic, I
yeah,
suppose.
yeah, that is demonic.
Yeah,
That
makes
it
then it
is,
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's Pharaoh's old tricks up to no good. So
Mm.
I think there could have been a lot of potential there. This maybe just needs to be a some ortho bro just needs to take this and run with it and make a an indie film or indie game with this billion dollar idea that we've laid out. So
It could be.
Yeah.
It could work as a video game, I suppose.
yeah,
Like you
Yeah.
have to go up the floors or something. I don't know. Anyway, we're not gonna.
yeah, yeah,
This
Like
is flooded
climbing the
cinema,
ladder.
not flooded gaming.
yeah. True. That's for another time.
Is there anything else? I'm going through my notes here. I've just got. I just literally wrote down like the cameos, and then Steve Coogan as the Roman, I suppose, as well. I love how in every American movie, like any European or like Roman, it's just British accent.
It's just put a British accent. I was hoping that they would speak Latin.
Yes,
Because,
I
like,
thought
the
that would be cool.
The Mayans were like doing their proto Aztec language.
Yeah,
So that was cool.
yeah,
But like just little details like that, or like Sacagawea. Like I don't even know how much English she knew. Like have her have this barrier of communication.
yeah. And it's like
know,
Lewis and Clark. They didn't even seem to understand that they were in a museum or in a thing.
Yeah,
They were,
I know. See, this is the thing. There's these varying levels of consciousness of what is going on in reality. It's like there's multiple Plato's caves of these characters,
Yeah.
And Lewis and Clark, like they just seem so shocked when the glass is broken and
Yeah.
Sacagawea is free. And it's like it was this weird narrative that Sacagawea was like trapped or something. Like I don't know. It was like trying to be
Yeah.
like this really dramatic thing. She was being freed.
And
But
also,
there was this-
why was there glass on that exhibit and like
Yeah, I know.
and surely
it
he'd
was
have the
going-
keys to get around the back of the like and open up the door.
Yeah. Otherwise, how would you have gotten into it? Yeah, and well, there was this whole like subplot. There was too many subplots going on in this film too.
Yeah.
Like I don't care about so many of the characters you guys introduced, but the thing is, there was like this Teddy Roosevelt Sacagawea love thing going on, and like
Yeah. Unnecessary.
on one level, on one level, it's really funny because like that's so like you can't pick a person that embodies America as well as like Teddy Roosevelt, and
Mm.
like that the fact that he's like eyeing up the native woman, it's
Mm.
like it's just like a perfect analogy of based colonialism. But yeah, otherwise it was totally pointless because Teddy also knew we're just all wax and we don't have souls and like oh my
Well,
goodness.
but I
So
guess he could go and hang out with her every night or something. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's very bizarre. I don't know. Yeah, it needed. I think it would have been good having like one or two. Like they could have had. I guess they couldn't have done Cleopatra. I don't know who's other famous. I'm trying to think of famous women. I'm blanking.
there's not a lot. There's not a lot, Sonny.
I don't know, like some queen or something. There wasn't anything like that. There's just so many potentials for like funny cameos they could have done. I'm just
Yeah,
thinking about it.
and there was at the end there was like a random little like band of crusaders
Oh
in one
yeah,
of the big fight scenes that in the main hall, and I'm like,
yeah,
where were they the whole thing, like
yeah.
where it was like all, I mean it was based in America, so like of course they would have a lot of America history, but like that's such a small amount of time in comparison to the world, and like I don't know, there
Mm,
like like we've been saying, there was a lot of missed opportunities
yeah.
with
One thing I
this
did think was
species.
cool, which I did like, was the Civil War soldiers having their
Yes,
faces
yeah,
covered, like the
yeah,
all
yeah,
white.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. That was cool.
Um,
Yeah,
I'm just trying to think. Is there anything
I
else?
think I'm trying to think too. Is there any bit we're missing out on here?
Oh, the one other funny thing that I remembered was in the Western diorama thing, they had like the Chinese people helping them build the railway.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was funny. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh,
Well, do you know the history of that?
I mean, vaguely, but
Oh yeah.
I mean, I
Basically,
know that there were Chinese people over there, like during the Wild West sort of days and that. But
yeah. Basically, they just needed cheap labor
yeah,
for very inhospitable areas in the Rocky Mountains,
yeah,
and they couldn't get slaves, so they just went and got cheap Chinese
Chinese,
labor.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
know,
More things change, the more they stay the same.
yeah, true, so true. But oh my goodness, this is a Providence moment. I had this just happened just in tune, ladies and gentlemen. We truly are getting into strange territories here because I had a popcorn kernel stuck in my teeth this whole day ever since we started Night at the Museum with my wife, and it just came out. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you?
I think it means we're done. I don't know.
This has been a real big ride. I hope executives from Disney were watching.
Mm.
Um,
Was it a Disney film?
you No,
Doesn't
well,
matter.
they want to remake it. They
Doesn't
bought
matter.
the
Yeah.
rights to it. Yeah,
Ah.
they're coming out with they're coming out with a remake on their streaming service. I've
Oh
read.
really?
So
Oh wow.
yeah, so it's going to
Well,
probably
we'll
bad.
have to cover that, I suppose.
Yeah, see if they've listened
Mm.
to what makes a proper narrative.
As long as they bring back Carla Gugino, I won't complain.
Yeah, well, how has she aged? That's the question. They can't bring back Robin Williams. So
No.
no.
Well, I guess in this one they could have a wax statue of Robin Williams.
True, as a really meta thing,
Yeah,
or
that.
homage or
I
something.
think that'd
Yeah.
be a bit too. Anyway, I think we've covered
I,
everything.
yeah, this was a blast. Thanks for having me on.
No worries.
Truly an honor. Truly an honor to be part of the Flooded Basement alumni. Uh, we even had a little esoteric cameo from Orthodoxy First.
Yes,
Love
Luke
to
dropped
see
in.
it. What a guy. So
Yes, all the best to him
yes, yeah,
as well. Yeah.
and all the best to your Pokemon team.
Oh
Um,
yes.
I
Mu-
quick side note here. Luke, he's pulling a fast one on us, and he didn't really do much with gold or silver or crystal growing up. He was more of just a
Mm.
ruby, sapphire, emerald,
Mm.
leaf green, fire red. And I'm not trying to hate on Gen 3. Great stuff. Really good stuff. But come on.
Yeah.
He said his favorite Gen 2 was Ho-Oh.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. It's kind of a basic choice. I don't know.
Oh, those are fighting words. We'll have to bring Luke on here to defend himself. No,
Yeah, maybe we can discuss the Pokemon movie.
I've been eagerly awaiting the next stream, so I'm looking forward to it, sir.
Oh, no worries. Well, thank you so much again, Joe, for coming on. We've discussed everything. 2 very interesting movies. I think we both definitely recommend a visitor to a museum when you've got the stamina to sit through.
Stamina and the Orthodox phronema to understand what really is going on in our interpretation of it, right?
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm going to end the stream, I suppose.
All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.